How's everybody doing tonight? Tonight is my 24th discussion, first of 2021. Tonight, I have the honor of speaking with Mike Olender of the epic, legendary band Endeavor, also the brutal, crushing Burnt by the Sun. Uh, can't wait to talk to him. I love Endeavor. They're like, seriously, like one of my favorite 90s hardcore bands of all time. So we're just waiting for him to jump on. Hope everybody had a safe and happy new year. Hope this year turns around, gives us a little positive vibes. So we're just waiting on Mike right now. Ron, how are you, my friend? Just waiting for Mike to jump on. Hopefully the Eastern, Central, Pacific, Mountain Time doesn't mess with anybody too much. Here we go. Should be going any minute. Should be jumping on. Hold on. Let's see if I can try it again. Just waiting for him. Let's try it again. Hold on. Hold on, Mike. I'm trying to get you. There we go. Send a request for him. There we go.
There we are.
Mike, how you doing?
Good, man. How are you?
Good, good. I want to thank you for doing this. I
Sure.
appreciate you taking the time out, especially on a Sunday night. I know you have, kids and stuff like that, and Sundays are usually family day and night for me. But I appreciate you taking the time out.
It's no problem at all. Actually, it's a nice break to the end of the weekend and getting back to started with work tomorrow and all that after a little bit of time off. So,
Yeah, me too. Were you on vacation?
no, not really. Actually, I take that back. The only day I really had off last week was Christmas. A little bit on Christmas Eve or whatever. But just mentally, kind of coasting a little bit, which has been nice.
Yeah, yeah. I was on vacation for a week. Just spend. I have two young daughters, and just me and my wife just spent a lot of time with them, being safe. We didn't do anything. We just chilled out. Went
Hmm.
outside, sledded, did some fun things like that. But
Perfect.
nothing crazy. Did you sit in on New Year's Eve and just relax, or?
Yeah, I was indoors actually. I was by myself. I was with my kids for the first part of the evening, and then I was by myself, and it was very quiet, low key, sober night.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a little bit of actually, I brought out a little bit of a amaretto with me, a little Di Serrano, just because I'm sitting outside and it's cool out.
Yeah.
Had a little bit of that, and then I'm like, you know what, that's fine for me. Yeah, I'm kind of 45. I guess I've seen enough New Year's balls drop, even though this one was with the absence of people in New York. So
Yeah, it was crazy. I was trying to find a feed, and I couldn't believe the empty streets in New York. It was crazy. I've never seen anything like that. It was really weird. My kids were like, "Where's all the people?" And I'm like, "Well, And they're like, "Oh yeah, I forgot." But it was just a very weird scene to see that.
it is. We're living in very interesting times for sure, and it's just like right through New Year's Eve. It's just been creepy.
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully 2021 is, turns a positive way, and things can kind of get back to normal, whatever normal is. Honestly, that might not ever come back to being normal, but a better way of life, I guess I would say.
Yeah, I hope so. But I got to tell you, man, it's so strange. Like this year, not even a full year, but say of like, 7, 8 months of like social distancing and all that, it's amazing now. Like whenever I watch a movie or a TV show and I see people close together, not wearing masks or shaking hands, there's a part of me that flinches a little bit now.
Yeah.
Just because you just get conditioned after a while of, of certain behaviors. And it's just weird. It's kind of a trip to see these sort of mental effects it has on you.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because like the newer movies that I've watched too, I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, when did they film this? Because there's an awful lot of people in the
Yeah.
crowd, like on the streets and stuff like that. And it just
Yeah.
it hits me kind of weird. I'm a big movie guy, so I'm like constantly watching movies, and it's been a hard hit for that industry too, just putting out new movies and shows and series and stuff like that. But yeah, it's been wild.
Yeah, yeah. And what is it? I forget what studio it is going to be from now on. They're going to be putting out on Apple the releases the day that they get released into the theater.
Oh, that's Warner Brothers. They did that with
Yeah,
they did
yeah.
that with Wonder Woman. Yeah.
Amazing.
Which is I mean, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I think it's a bad thing for the directors. And from what I heard, they didn't even tell any of the directors. They just were like, hey, this is coming out then, like, surprise. And I guess a lot of directors weren't too happy with that. But, I mean, you're not going to make too much money if it's going into the movie theater, because there's no way I'm stepping into the movie theater anytime soon. So, and I'm sure a lot of people are like that too as well. So it's a scary time. And I mean, I don't mind personally watching it on sitting in the living room and watching a movie like that. I hate to see cinemas go away if that happens, but I don't know what the solution would be to that.
Yeah. Well, it's just a matter of time. Hopefully, this vaccines will in the long term be effective, and people will, to some extent, find a different way of doing old things.
Yeah.
As we did, But in the meantime, we got to I think, take it seriously and say, all right, let's just get through this,
Yeah.
And be creative and figure out, better ways of doing normal things, and then hopefully things will go back to normal. And sometimes you realize, hey, the new way of doing things is pretty good too. So
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. Before we started, I kind of have been going back with Kyle Bishop from Grade and Akron and the Swarm, and he wanted me to tell you to say hi, and he said that you're one of his favorite people, and that you're the best looking guy in hardcore still. So he just wanted me to relay that message to you.
Well, that means a lot coming from Kyle, because he's quite a dapper guy. Even when he had his dreads, or does he still have? I don't think he has dreads.
No, I don't think he does. No.
No, it's been a long time since that. But he's got a great car. He's got that. What does he have? Like a '73 Cuda.
Yeah, I think so.
Takes out for like 3 months a year up there in Canada. He's a great guy, and we had a lot of fun on the road with those guys back in the mid '90s in Europe.
Yeah, it was. We've been going back and forth trying to find a date that I can talk to him as well. I started this just out of quarantine and doing something fun and the love of hardcore. I've been going to shows since 1984 was my first show, and I really started getting into the hardcore shows at probably like 87, 88, and then from then on I've never stopped going to hardcore shows, as well as hip hop. I'm a big hip hop guy, but I'm more of a '90s hip hop guy. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I know you dabble in hip hop as well, because I've heard you talk about Public Enemy and things like that. So
yeah, I did, and it's funny because I was thinking, I was listening to the last interview you did on your show, and you started out by asking about how he got into hardcore. His answer was basically the same as mine, which was like skateboarding and Thrasher magazine. And it's funny, I was thinking about that, and it was like, yeah, it wasn't only hardcore and punk and like certain metal bands like early Metallica, but it was also Ice-T, Public Enemy, KRS-One, BDP at the time.
Yeah.
It was that, and it was just that the pulse, like throughout those types of music, there's a certain fast pulse, a certain energy that's there. So yeah, for me, the favorites are oldies, the things that spoke to my my DNA, in those relatively early years.
In Thrasher magazine, also had hip hop bands back then too, if I remember right.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. Like Ice-T, I remember reading. I think he was. I mean, it might not have been to like 1990 where Ice was interviewed, but you'd see like pictures like Nodis, skating with a Public Enemy shirt, and that gave a certain informal endorsement to the group. And it's like at that point, like late '80s, it's like anything Nodis is cool, because
Yeah.
and so it's like, wow, what's he into? I mean, you just the influence and being that unofficial ambassador for certain bands or certain artists of different types, had a lot of weight, coming from people like that, and you'd see that in Thrasher, and you were like, wow, this is, I am attracted to this energy that is in skateboarding for whatever reason, and there are these other associations to that, and so I have to explore that, and then in the process of that, you discover just a lot of great stuff, and that leads to an understanding of the certain DIY foundation to a lot of these types of things, and the opportunity to be able to meet a lot of people who you respect, over the years. And I mentioned Ice-T, a moment ago. I got to interview him,
Wow.
back in it was the late '90s, and it was just amazing, just to have the opportunity to sit down with the man for 40 minutes or whatever and talk, and so many opportunities like that to be able to connect with people who had an influence on me. It's not some big rock stardom thing. It's just this sense that we're all, from one thing to the next, there's this common linkage there, culturally, that's pretty awesome to be a part of.
And what did you interview him for? Like, what was that for? Was it for a magazine or?
Actually, this is great, man. I was in Rutgers at the time, and I was trying to start a like a community. I wouldn't call it a zine. Yeah, I guess it was kind of like the idea behind it was going to be like a music community organizing art type of publication.
Yeah.
And I had this idea, some pretty aggressive ideas, and I was like, I've got to get like some pretty well-known people to be part of this. So I interviewed the Michael Parenti, who's this big progressive thinker who I read a lot about back then, and I interviewed Ice-T, and I found out he was speaking at Rutgers. I showed up to the venue early. No, actually, I called this publicist when I found out about it. They were blowing me off, and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to go. And I totally pretended that my publication was like this big established thing. I totally fronted, man. And next thing I know, I'm standing there like in the lobby waiting, and down comes the aisle is Ice-T and Shawnee Sean and some members of his crew.
Yeah.
And oh my God, I'm actually doing this. So it was pretty amazing, and he was super generous with his time, and he actually recorded me an answering machine message too.
Oh, no kidding.
Which I still have to this day.
Oh,
yeah.
that's sick. I mean, I was a big Ice-T fan. Power was like one of my favorites of all time. I love Power so much. I was listening to it probably a couple weeks ago, and it still feels the same to me when I listen to it. I love that album so much.
Being 14, skating in a friend's driveway with Power on the boombox, and just flipping the tape like every 20 minutes or whatever, just hours and hours. Yeah, it was definitely great. Yeah.
Now was Thrasher kind of your in skateboarding, like you said, that was kind of your into the hardcore world. Like once you were I guess access that. Did you want to be in a band right away, or was it kind of you went to a few shows and you liked the scene and then you wanted to be in a band? How did it kind of come together?
Yeah, well, it started, and this trips me out a little bit because my son, actually tomorrow, he turns 11. He's in 5th grade. And when I was in 5th grade, I first got exposed to, like, I first met somebody who was into skating and was punk and stuff. There's this sitting in class, this kid, George, walks in. He's new kid to school. And he's wearing Vans. He's got his denim jacket with like bleach spots on it, and he like wrote with like or whatever, like band names and patches. And he had like the Tony Hawk haircut. except I remember he shaved the sides of his hair, but not like all the way over, just like a little box.
Yeah.
He used a straight razor.
Ooh.
I told me he used it not like a shaving razor, a straight razor,
Yeah.
which was very evident because there were all these little 1 inch like cuts,
Little slices. Yeah.
like where he screwed up. These little scabs. So he was an interesting cat. But anyway, he was into skating, and he didn't have like a dashboard or something. He had like a real board,
Yeah.
skating style stuff. And he used to bring in his thrashers, and we got to be friends, and he got to be friends with my family. He'd come over for dinner a lot after school, and he was from a pretty broken home, so single mom home type of thing, living on the other side of the highway. And so we kind of took him in, and he I learned from him, dead Kennedys, suicidal tendencies, bad brains, just some of the basics. For me, he kind of like verbalized what the connection was. It's just like, yeah, man, this band, it's like, oh, you see this? Because I'd have a question about this band in the magazine. Be like, well, here's their tape.
Yeah.
And then there I am, like in my room listening to it with my headphones on at night, so my parents don't hear, because they're like, they're not going to like this. They think like Motley Crue or something is too hard. This is like, way different.
Yeah.
But anyway, from that, the hook, really got in me as I got more into skating. I got better at skating, so I started hanging out with more older kids. And then they were like kids who were already doing bands or going to shows on a regular basis. And, the first show I went to, I actually saw in person, what a real DIY scene looks like,
Yeah.
and it's not just like this concept of, oh, well, here the people in the crowd and putting on the shows are just as important as the people on stage. It was like, no, it actually really is.
Yeah, definitely.
And it was like, here's my friend introducing me to the band that just played at the show. We're all just hanging out, and they're asking me about skateboarding,
Yeah.
And so it's like, wow, like this is for real. And since then it was like, I can do that. I can be on stage. I can do that. And I started kind of my journey of writing lyrics and stuff right then and there. And then before I got a band going into the living room, like when no one was home, plugging the microphone in and playing like instrumental tracks on hardcore records,
Yeah.
and singing my own lyrics over and stuff, and like recording them in a boombox. So yeah, man, I knew, and that's 14. So that's pretty early on. I knew that I wanted to be an active part of the scene and wanted to be in a band.
Yeah. And you were born in New Jersey, is that correct?
I was born in Maine, but I only lived there for like the first year of my life, and basically, yeah, I lived in Jersey till 2013.
What made your parents move from Maine to New Jersey? I mean, I'm a New England guy. I've been in New Hampshire like most of my life, so it's good to hear. You were born.
Well, actually, they were in Jersey before. So my parents born and raised in Bayonne, New Jersey, and then they moved down like the shore area, and then it was a job prospect up in Maine, and my dad just packed everybody up and moved up, and it didn't work out.
Yeah.
He was actually going to become a state trooper, and then he wound up not getting, like, told he had the job, and then when we moved up there, he found out he didn't have it. So he wound up moving back, getting his old job back, and so that's why the stay was so short there. But pretty much a Jersey boy, right on down to most of the years I've been on this planet.
Yeah. So how did Endeavor start for you? How did you make that band happen?
That was the, kind of the final product of a lot of, of attempting to start a band with a number of friends over the period of a couple of years. So I think it was my junior year. I hooked up with a friend, and he kind of made some connections, because he knew I really sing in a band, and he played guitar too. He had played guitar in a band before, and this guy Rob, and we kind of like get together, jam a little bit, and nothing ever really stuck. And then things started to really gel when my I guess it was my senior year. We had this guy Rob had introduced me to this guy Dan Cavalieri, who used to be in the band Absolution, which had members of, was it, I think, AF and Side by Side at one point.
Yeah.
And he was also in Reservoir for a minute. So he came on board. He's a few years older, so a little bit more experience, some connections. Just like kind of knew what they were doing more than the rest of us did.
Yeah.
And then from that, we just wound up evolving over the course of a couple of years till we got, the lineup that we wound up sticking with for quite a while. But, did a couple of demo. I know the first demo I did when I was in high school, and then the second one was right after high school. I graduated in '93.
Yeah.
The second one was like right after I'd graduated high school. And at that lineup we had kept, we had in place for a couple of years.
And of Equality was your first 7-inch that you released, right?
No, the Ferret 7-inch was it's the two.
Oh, was it Dry?
Dry and Hellbound, yeah, that was the first. Ferret put that out. That was actually Ferret's first release. And Carl Severson was, he was my best friend throughout most of high school. He'd moved to our area when I was a sophomore, and we were just like, we'd hang out every day. And he basically was like sixth member of Endeavor during the whole time, except he didn't have any musical ability. So he wound up being like, hey, I'm a label guy and I'll put out your record. And he had the smarts and a little bit of capital to get that going. And then that got going, and then Of Equality came out. I think it was just about a year later that we did the EP.
And then Crazier Than a Shithouse Brat came out. This was it 96 that same year, or was it 97? I thought that came out in 96, and then Constructive Semantics came out in 97.
Yeah, that sounds right. And actually there was we did some comps. We did a split with Envy.
Yep.
And we actually recorded, and I think I can't remember whether this was in between the two EPs or when exactly it was. It was the earlier years, but we had actually recorded like a 7-song, I guess the equivalent of what would be like a 10-inch.
Yeah.
That we never put out. Recorded at Ken Olden's down in DC, which is where we recorded the first 2 EPs too. But we never wound up doing anything from. I don't even have a copy of those songs either.
Ooh.
Yeah. I would be afraid to listen to it now, though. Yeah.
Now, when you were younger, were you always like an advocate for human rights and the political side of lyrics and stuff like that? Was that always something that just came to you naturally, that you were interested in? Because like I was describing to one of my friends, I was like, the lyrics in Endeavor, especially Constructive Semantics, it's like, honestly, I don't know how you fit all those words into a 2.5-minute song. I mean, it's incredible to me, and it's almost to me almost genius like, because I don't know, I mean, I sang in some bands, nothing huge or anything like that, but I really don't know how you did that, and I salute you for fitting all those words into, like I said, a 2-3 minute long song. Sorry, that was like 2 questions in one.
Thanks for that. I don't know if that's quite a compliment, though, because typically if you can convey your point in as few words as possible, it can be the most effective. It's the best. So me, I'd have like a 1,000-word essay and cram it into a song. I don't know how really I was able to do that, but yeah, I was always attracted. I mean, I always had a mind for political things, and it was just because my father was always interested in politics, and we talk about things, and I had a real appreciation for the civil rights movement growing up, and I don't know what it was exactly. I mean, I think actually I do know. I mean, I would have to say it was hip hop. It was Public Enemy. It was Boogie Down Productions that gave me an awareness of that world, and I couldn't relate to a lot of it at the time, because I'm like, this can't be happening, and then you find out, no, it actually really is. And learn about the Civil Rights Museum, and And so high school, I remember I had like a civil rights calendar, and I took out all the pictures and just like put them all over the walls. And it wasn't just like MLK, but it was like, the poor people's movements, marches and stuff, and Vietnam War protests and stuff like that. And I was just really, really inspired by the ideas of social movements, and oftentimes how art was a part of that. Music was a part of it. You would see protests, and you would see people doing the protest songs. You would see um, uh, street theater. You would see people incorporating art into protest, and of course the music of the late 60s and 70s. Wound up being anthems for various aspects of social movements then. So and for me, hardcore seemed to be such a natural vehicle for that. And so once I really I'd say I really found my identity with hardcore when I discovered, I mean, I can tell you exactly when it was. It was the summer of '89 when Gorilla Biscuits Start Today came out. And I was like, okay, like this is speaking to me in a way that nothing has ever before. And read the lyrics, and I'm like, okay, songs about, anti-racist, straight edge, social responsibility. It's like, this is who I am.
Yeah.
This is a way for me to be involved in something that has that pulse, but that isn't like, rebellious, like, listening to Slayer or Venom was, like this, still kind of safe, but it was me. And so, but then as I got like more into that, the Revelation stuff, the New Age record stuff, started getting more into like the Abolition catalog, and Downcast, Struggle, and a few others that really spoke to me. And for me, I thought that's it, because there's plenty of people doing the straight stuff and doing it well.
Yeah.
I was like, this is my comfort zone. This is where I feel natural. This is where I feel I could have the most impact. And it's what I wanted to do, and like you said, with that Semantics record, man, I was so serious and committed to my mission of, wanting to get people to think about certain topics, that for me, it was just as important as the music was, as the hardcore scene was, and frankly, the best way to put it is my dream was I wanted to endeavor to do for progressive politics what Earth Crisis had done for veganism and environmentalism. Elevate it. Obviously, we didn't do that, but that was where the motivation was coming from.
Do you think that those messages kind of went over the I mean, I don't want to say the regular hardcore kids, but I mean, do you think that those messages kind of just went over their head and they just wanted to come to Endeavor shows and mosh, and kind of it was just a lot back then? I was always a huge I would read all the lyrics, any vinyl or CD I bought. I was always into the lyrics and stuff like that, but some kids weren't. Some kids were just there to mosh and dance and have a good time. Do you think a lot of that political views of Endeavor kind of went over people's heads then?
Oh, absolutely. And that was a source of great frustration for me for quite a long time. It was yeah, at some times, there were moments I felt like I wanted to quit, not because I didn't love what we were doing, but just because I thought that if I'm going to try and have an impact in this area, in the air, trying to have an influence in society or in public policy, I should just go do that, and not try to do it through music. I realized the shortcoming of that site, though, because there are some people who, they're not going to pick up the newspaper. They're not going to care what their state legislature is doing. But if they hear an idea through music, maybe they will be brought in. And over the years, it's one of the great things has been, I mean, I started Endeavor back. I mean, I'm 45 now. I mean, we're talking almost 30 years ago when we first started putting that together. And I still will get DMs from people who I've never met before, who, found me on ran across me on social media and just said, this record, just wanted to, this record had an impact on me. This record turned me onto these ideas, or, I'm running for office now because initially the ideas I found in your records inspired me to try to make some kind of change. And, that to me is the greatest reward ever, however minor it is,
Yeah, constructive semantics was huge for me. Like I posted that Tim Morris video of you guys in New Jersey, and when I wrote a description, I think like constructive semantics and obscenity in the milk by Millhouse for that year 97 was like I never took those out of my tape deck. Like those two albums were always in my tape deck, and I love those albums so much. And it was good to like I was a Trustkill fan too. The band's on Trustkill when you guys got on that label. How did that kind of come together when you were on Trustkill? Because I know Despair, Disembodied, Harvest, obviously, and Nora was on Trustkill, right, for a little while.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, me and Carl went to high school with Josh Grabel from Trustkill. So I met Josh when I was 14, and we used to skate, and ultimately went to shows together, and he's one of my best friends to this day. So the way we wound up flipping, we started with Carl. We worked with the label Happy Days for the Of Equality record, and then the Shithouse Rat record, and then we were over on Conversion. I don't know if you know this.
Oh, no kidding. No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, which was like the sister label to New Age at the time out there.
Yeah.
Dennis from Outspoken ran that, and he did the re-release of the Shithouse Rat record. And then while we were with him, I think that's when Conversion started to fold up. And then Josh, made us, the offer to put out the Semantics record. And so that was just an easy thing for us to do. And we worked with him on it. I actually have great memories of us writing that record. We were so committed to doing things the right way with that. We were living in New Brunswick. Most of us were living in New Brunswick, New Jersey at the time. We were really good friends with the guys from Lifetime, and they were such a hard-working band, and were them and a few of the other bands in the area. We really took a lot of like inspiration from just their ethic of just like songwriting and being able to go back and listen to something the next day or the next week and say, what, we can do this better, or what have you.
Yeah.
And then that package, we went to a better studio to record that record. That's why it sounds much sonically bigger than the other one. And then even the artwork, I was like, I want to have, a list of these organizations and stuff right in the jacket so people can go like explore the next step.
Yeah.
To these ideas. And this artist, David Scott Sinclair, he used to do artwork for the Progressive magazine covers. And so we commissioned him to do the artwork for that record. We sent him the lyrics, and he came up with the artwork for it. And so it was just for me at the time, it just represented exactly where, what we were about and what we wanted to convey. And, and then we worked with Alot Mammon, who rented this studio called Sweetwood at the time. He's in that group Dalek.
Oh, nice.
And, just being able to work with him again was just a great experience. Really, really, it was a difficult time in my life, but that was one of the things that really pulled me through, was working on that record.
Yeah. And when you were in Denver, what was kind of your favorite tours that you went on, and did you have any sister bands that were with you guys at any of those tours that you guys did back in?
Yeah. That's a funny question. We met so many great bands. We didn't tour with Hot Water Music, but our first tour we did, like a week of the dates we did with them, and just happened to be our schedules like lined up, and we got to be friends with those guys. Still know those guys to this day. The Disembodied guys, the same thing. Like, we happened to be playing dates with them when we were on a full U.S. tour, and got to know them really, really well. And that connection also came through from Carl Severson. When he went to college, he originally left Jersey and went to University of Minneapolis. And he met the guys from Harvest and Disembodied, and then help kind of make the connection. And so when we were out on the road, you know, we kind of knew them through Carl already and just got to become really great friends with them. Um, we did a full U.S. tour with Harvest, which was great. And that same summer, I think we finished that tour and then we went right to Europe, or maybe it was the opposite way around. And then we toured with Grade in Europe. That was quite a summer of touring. So I'd say with that band, I mean those bands were the ones that stood out the most. And then there were ones that we just played a lot with, like we played with Despair a lot.
Yeah.
You know, which was great because, you know, Vogel in any band he's ever done, I mean, he's the best frontman I've ever seen before.
I know, it's great. It's great that Terror is still going strong. I mean, I love that. And I always say, you know, people in their 40s that are still doing music like this is a great thing to me. You know, I'm not surprised because I see more and more and more of it, and they're still putting out amazing, you know, musical content too at you know 40 plus, and I can't believe it. I mean, Terror is great.
I mean, they're amazing, and their live shows are just as great as they've ever been. You know, and the same thing too with Jamie and Hatebreed. You know, I mean, none of the bands ever, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? They never did any, never took any compromising steps with their sounds at all. They're just as aggressive as they ever were. You know, maybe they've tried a couple of things here and there, but they're still doing it 100%, and 100% heart. So, and I really give them a lot of credit, man, because, you know, in our scene, you know, most people don't make a living doing it, you know, and for them to bet everything on it and to just make that investment of themselves every single time they get on the stage or every time they write a song or what have you, it says a lot, man, especially now, you know, because of what's going on with COVID, you know, and I feel for those guys and hope they're all doing all right, because it's their livelihoods that are at stake.
Now, I know you played guitar in Nora. When did you pick up a guitar? Like, where did the process go from singing in Endeavor to playing guitar in Nora? And were you also, did you start when the Dillinger Nora split came out, or did you come after that?
Oh no, I was one of the founders of Nora. So I had gotten a guitar as a graduation present for graduating high school. And you know, I really didn't know how to play it well for a few years. And then, not that I was a super great guitar player, but you know, once I got good enough to where I felt like I could be in a band, and I was looking for something to do outside of Endeavor, because the thing with Endeavor is, obviously you're a front man, you are front and center of attention every second of every set. Whereas if you're a guitar player, you know, you can turn your back if you want. You can, you know, in between songs, you know, I used to give these big long political speeches and stuff, right? In between songs with Endeavor. You know, with Nora, hey, I can just tune, I can take a little break, you know. I mean, it was, and then just obviously a different way of expressing myself. So, yeah, you know, me, Carl, Chris Rock was doing Ensign at the time, and he's been in I don't know how many other bands aside from that, and a couple other guys. We just got together and started jamming, and you know, started demoing some stuff, and then I think Ferret did the Kill You for a Dollar EP.
Yeah.
And then and then we started with no, I think he also did the split too with Dillinger, right?
I think that was on Ferret.
That's Ferret. That's Ferret. That's right. Yeah, and then we went to Trustkill after that.
Yeah, with the what was it? The Never Ending.
Uline.
Uline. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and then I was with them until let's see, I was doing that, and then Endeavor ended '98. I started also playing guitar in this band called Try Fail Try.
Yeah.
Which was a great New Brunswick band. And then I started doing Burnt by the Sun in early 2000. And then I quit both bands. to do Burnt by the Sun. And then I wound up coming back to Nora to fill in. I toured with them on the uh, what's the Dreamers record, and then I got back with them as a bass player to write and record the last album that Nora did.
Oh, no kidding! I didn't know that. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Try Fail Try. They were kind of. I kind of remember them because I think I had seen you play in that band a long time ago. I've seen Nora. I've never saw Endeavor. I saw Nora in Worcester, and I think did you do shows together in both bands? Because for some reason I think I saw Try Fail Try with Nora when you were in those bands.
That very well could have happened. I did. It wasn't often that I do double duty, but that had happened before.
Yeah, and
Yep.
Try Fail Try was almost like if I can remember correctly, weren't the vocals almost like a hip hop, hardcore-ish like cadence a little bit? It seemed like they were like not hip hop, but you know what I mean. It was almost kind of you know what I mean, kind of choppy like that.
I don't know. I don't think I'd ever describe Ronan that way.
I could be wrong. From what I remember, I mean.
No, I don't know. I really liked it. I really liked what that band was about at the time. I was a fan of them, even though they were this band that had just started coming up when Endeavor was playing a lot and touring and stuff. You know, I got to be friends. I was really into weight training at the time, and me and the guitar player got to be friends. We used to train together, and then when Endeavor ended, you know, they asked me, you know, hey, we'd like to add another guitar player to the band.
Yeah.
And I was like, yes, absolutely, because I thought it was such a cool band. It had just a great blend of like melodic hardcore, punk element to it, a little bit of metal, and then Ronan's vocals were kind of all over the place. And it was challenging physically for me to play as a guitar player because Chris was a much better player than I was.
Yeah.
So they were just like night after night, I'd be watching a movie and I'd be sitting there going through scales on my guitar, like just trying to get my chops down. And that dude, Chris, made me a much better guitar player, just so I could keep up with him.
Yeah. Now they only put out 2 EPs though, right? Did they ever put out a full length? Because I don't think I ever heard the full length.
No, they never did. They did. I know they did a song, a comp. They did a demo, and they did and an EP, and just the one EP.
Oh, I thought they had 2 EPs for some weird reason.
I don't think so. Yeah. Yeah, I think the demo might have been released as vinyl too. I don't know.
Yeah. And you also played in For the Love Of, right?
Yeah.
What did you do in that band?
Oh, I sang.
Oh, you did? Right.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
Not on Feasting, not the Feasting album, right?
No. I wound up. I'm on the last record they did. It's called Not on My Watch. So they had they broke up. I'm not sure what year it was. Maybe 2000. And I loved For the Love Of. Like Endeavor played a lot with them.
Yeah.
Shared the stage with them a lot. And I was what's the word? I wasn't jealous of them, but like I kind of like I wanted, like, I never wanted to give up Endeavor, but I also wanted to like secretly sing For the Love Of too.
Yeah.
Great. No one was doing what they were doing. Like they had just a really cool blend of influences. You know, they were doing, their music had this dark feel to it. They were doing like half mutes and diminished chords, and their live show was just like, you know, the sledgehammer with the anvil, you know, hitting the anvil, sparks flying into the crowd, and
Yeah.
you know, the pitchforks with the gong and stuff. And like, no, if any other hardcore band did that, it would have been cheesy, but they could pull it off.
Yeah.
And it was so cool. And anyway, so I was just like, I thought they were great. And then so they broke up, and then they got asked to do a reunion for the Hellfest that took place in New Jersey, 2004.
Mm.
And they didn't talk to the old singer anymore. And actually, Carl Severson rang me, and he was like, "Hey, just a heads up, John Stanley's going to give you a buzz. You know, they got asked to do this. They want to do it." I was like, "They don't even have to ask."
Yeah.
So that I wound up doing that festival with them, and then we got a bunch of offers to do shows after that, which we did, and then like we just vibed so well that we just started writing, and then we wrote this. I think it's 7 or 8 songs. The Not on My Watch record, which was great fun to do. It was it's a very different record than the others, mostly because of me. Um, but it's a good. I think it's a really good record. Especially love the music on the record. So
What
if you haven't
what year
heard,
what year did that come out?
I think '09.
Oh nine.
Yeah.
I don't think I heard it. Feasting on the Will of Humanity was one of my favorite albums.
Oh yeah.
That album blew me away when I first heard it. It was it was like incredible when I first heard those guys. Definitely back then.
I still listen to it. I mean, it's funny because every now and then, like if For the Love of comes up in conversations, I usually tend to refer to the band as they and not we.
Yeah.
And it's just simply because I was a big fan of them before I was in it, and my favorite stuff that they ever did was Feasting.
Mm. Yeah,
So
that album crushes it.
It's amazing. It really is a great record, and I like the second one too, the one that Ferret did. Yeah, Inconsequence record, though vocally it's very one-dimensional and way more could have been done. But the music, like if you listen to that record, you know, there's a lot of just really creative parts and time signatures, and it itself, like, musically is a really really interesting record. You know, so I was honored to be a part of that band for a while, and we got to last time I saw those dudes, we played This Is Hardcore in 2018.
Oh no.
And we did the whole Feasting record.
Oh no kidding. Oh.
Yeah.
Is that on YouTube?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, I gotta watch that.
Yeah.
So how did Burnt by the Sun come about? I know was 2000 the Luddite Clone split CD. That was the first thing that came out, right? And how did that come about? Because I know Dave, who's been in a million amazing bands. How did you get with those guys? How did that work out? I know it's a little bit different than Endeavor, obviously. Metalcore wise to regular straight up hardcore, but
Yeah.
how did that come into the fold?
They had actually come up to a Nora show. We were playing at the Court Tavern in New Brunswick for the sole purpose of trying to recruit me for this new band. They were, which to this day, man, it's 20 years later, and I'm still like honored to say that because I was such big fans of both of those guys. Like we were friends, but I was in awe of Witty because of Human Remains, and I mean, I would watch and almost like giggle just like watching all of them play together because they're so incredibly talented. And then John Adabata, who was guitar player in Burnt by the Sun, used to do a band called Time's Up, and I got to give a shout out to anybody listening. Make a note to look up Time's Up. I think the 7-inch is called Discernment. It's a 7-inch. It's on YouTube, and it is. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, like each song has got like 22 parts. It's just like very kind of Burnt by the Sun riffs. A lot of cool timing.
Yeah.
They were a really really cool, very underrated, underappreciated band. So I had a lot of respect for John too. So anyway, they were like, hey, we've been doing this project, writing these songs, and we keep hearing your voice in the head, and we like your lyrics, we like what you're about, like we would like you to check it out. And I was like, I didn't even have to hear it. I was like, yeah, do it. Yeah, of course. It's like, yeah, I'll check it out. I'm like, yeah, of course I'm gonna do it. And sure enough, I was just really excited about it. And then Ted Patterson, who was also Human Remains, came on board. And then Chris Raccio, who used to play opposite guitar with John in Time's Up, came. And those two were like the Coyle brothers in God Forbid. I mean, they were just boom, 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 boom. I mean, just like didn't even have to look at each other. They were so tight with each other. And then so, we had a lot of great chemistry with each other, and things just very naturally flowed from there.
And how did the Relapse come into getting in touch with you guys and wanting to put out records for you guys?
They reached out. Funny thing is you mentioned before that the EP with a Luddite Clone. Um, we signed with Relapse before we even played a show.
Oh, really? No kidding.
Yeah, like they reached out immediately. I guess Dave had, he was friends with those guys. He was really tight with those guys at Relapse, and they had strong interest in it immediately. And yeah, we had. I think we had just sent them like some, not even demo, like practice room boombox recordings, and they were already like writing up, like sending us contracts, And then so we played. What was it? Those metal fests that used to get organized. What was that guy named Jack something who used to organize the big, like Milwaukee Metal Fest and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And that was our first show. Was March Metal Meltdown, which was basically like Milwaukee Metal Fest, but in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And that was our first show. Was playing that, and then from there we recorded the Luddite Clone tracks and the first Relapse EP in the same session.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. Just the only thing we wound up like redoing some guitar stuff on the on one of them. I forget which one it was. I think it was the Relapse EP. We like went back and redid the guitars, but basically everything was done at the same time.
And how was the difference between like the crowds back then, obviously from a hardcore to metalcore? I mean, I know it gets a lot rougher as
they had like the guys, like the Burnt guys, basically had like an intervention with me after like by like the second or third show, because I was so used to doing just like the hardcore, like the political hardcore thing, which was like talking about these social issues and topics and stuff in between songs. And they were like, man, this is a different crowd. Like, you can't talk for 10 minutes in between songs. Just like, we got 30 minutes to play. You got to, make your point and move on. And then so, I adapted to it, and realized that. And it's like, okay, I can do the same. I can do a different version of what I had been doing, And then that wound up being part of the appeal to the band for some people, who were just, a lot of the bands that were on the Relapse catalog were doing more of the traditional themes with their lyrics and stuff, and that's not to diss any of it, because there's a place for it, and some of them are just so good at what they do, but for us, it was really important to have a strong social commentary, be part of the band in the lyrics, and to even though like some of us individually were very different on some topics, like what we thought about things, the purpose was just like get people thinking, like get people thinking about stuff, and have good productive arguments, and even if you can't, like, I don't know how many people I met, for people who were like after the show, people who were like, man, you don't know what you're talking about, but I love your band, man. That was so sick. Like, start there, So, and at the end of the day, sometimes it'd be standing outside of a club, talking, like arguing with some people about political issues for an hour. But then it's like, okay, man, I get it. Like we had maybe they're coming, approaching with some animosity, but then, having some mutual respect at the end and saying like, okay, we can agree to disagree, and I respect your view. I understand why you take this position, So it was that was something was very cool, and to see both in the hardcore scene and in the more metal scene.
Yeah. When I was listening to the 100 Words or Less podcast, when you were talking about what were you saying? It was shit. I forget what I was about to say. God, hold on. It might come to me. Hold on.
100 Words or Less.
Damn, what was I going to say? Well, anyways, I lost my train of thought.
About art, politics?
No, it was shit. What was it? Oh, I know what I was talking about. Sorry. It was you guys never compromised like changing your style in Burnt by the Sun, which I thought was very. I love that aspect of you guys. You never all of a sudden you didn't start singing melodies in between. You know, your crushing vocals, which a lot of bands did back then
Yeah.
at that time to maybe get popular or more money or bigger shows or what have you. But you guys never compromised that, and you kind of tapped into that a little bit on that podcast, and that's I mean was that in your mindset that you were just you're not going to do that, you're just going to
Oh,
be brutal and heavy? I know
yeah.
there was a 6-year gap between like albums, and then you came back and the newer album was just as crushing as the other ones were. um
Oh, yeah, it was, man. I had, in fact, that last Burnt by the Sun record, I had recorded almost all of the vocals at home. I had a little home studio set up, and so I really just took my time doing it. I had every opportunity in the world to like do things, get things perfect if I wanted to, or whatever. So, um, but in my mind, I had it really clear because I saw a lot of the bands who we had played with really change up their sound again, just to just try to sound more commercial,
yeah.
or they're like, oh well, this band is taking off and they do this, copy that, and that just like pissed me off.
Mm.
And then we word got out that we were doing this record with Relapse, and it was funny to see like on Goat and other places being like, oh well, they're doing it just for the check, or they're what they're going to try to make like a career out of, I don't know, whatever. It was a bunch of garbage.
Yeah.
And I was just like, man, wait till these people hear what we're doing, you know. And then from that first opening track on the Heart of Darkness record, it was like, nope, I want these people to hear this is not going to be a radio friendly sing along record. It is going to be vicious, just like vocally. And so, yeah, I just wanted to, at the best way, like in the best way possible, to capture the energy and the frustration of the moment throughout that record. And I still love it, man, to this day. Like, I don't listen to my records, but like, if it's on shuffle or something and it pops up and I'm like, wow, man, that was really going for it.
I mean, the reception I feel was great for that record too, especially since you guys took some years off and then blasted that one out, and it was just incredible to hear the heaviness still there. You know what I mean? And
It's a heavy record, man. Songs like F Unit on that record are just like, man, it's just, punishing how heavy it is. And, there are parts actually where I wasn't using like a $10,000 Neumann microphone or something. And I kind of wish I did because, the guitars and everything sounds so big. And though the vocals, like they sound the way I want to in terms of them capturing the energy I had at the moment,
yeah,
they're not quite at the caliber. It's not like a bigger, sound with the, that you would get with a good microphone. So, or the better microphone, should I say? But it's still, yeah, that record was fun to do. That was a lot of fun to do.
definitely. And now River Black in 2017 put out an album. Are you still working on that stuff, or is that kind of?
No, we haven't done anything. I'm trying to think. I don't even remember the last time we played. I think it might have been the Dark Lord Fest. Three Floyds Brewery in Indiana does this great. Every year they do this great festival, and we've done it a few times now. And that was the last time we played. I think it was it was 2018.
2018.
But yeah, no, since then, like, just everyone's just been busy, and everybody is like, Brett Bamberger is in revocation, and he, is also doing other things, recording and stuff. Whitty is always busy with music, even during COVID. Now I see he's doing project stuff and restaurant, the food truck he does. And then John Adabatis started a clothing line back a handful of years ago called Nor'easter, Nor'easter Hardcore Fishing. And he's gotten picked up huge distribution deals and stuff. And he has a normal great career in the web world. I don't web marketing and stuff, but he also does this on the side, and it's being hugely successful for him. So with everything, and then I have my own career and stuff, and so it's everybody just kind of looking back at the River Black thing, and we were like, well, we all got together to do this one record, and you know that's fine if that's all it is at this point, I think.
Yeah. Somebody had asked in the comments here, could we ever see a Burnt by the Sun reunion show, or maybe a mini tour?
I don't know. I think most of us are up for it. Like if we had a period where we said we had the time to do it, I think probably. At least there would be a serious conversation about it. One thing that is difficult for doing these things for me, and I think I can say this too for the other guys, is just you have to get in shape for it. So it's not just like finding the time and practicing, but like with singing and the vocals and stuff I do, because I want to run around on the stage a bit. I don't want to just like stand there like this.
Yeah.
So jump in the crowd and act like I'm 16 again. And it takes a while to get there, man. It's like when you're 45, it's like, okay, man, that means I got to spend the next 3 months like running and just kind of doing like vocal practice stuff, and not to mention the normal like rehearsal stuff. So it's definitely a lot better than just all of us hopping in a van and going out for a weekend.
Yeah, true. And your vocal style has changed throughout the years anyways. Was that kind of like purposely on your part to kind of switch it up for, Burnt by the Sun from Endeavor? When you first got into Burnt by the Sun, I didn't even know it was you like for the first year. And then somebody said you were singing in that band, and I was like, holy shit. I was like, and then I went back and I listened to everything. Like, well, at the time you only had put out the Ludi Clone in the self-title, but yeah. I was surprised that it was you like doing the vocals.
Well, it's the tuning. Endeavor tunes straight standard tuning, straight E. For the Love of is drop D. Burnt by the Sun and River Black are straight C. So having those low notes actually for me is my comfort zone. So I am my voice is much stronger singing like in C or even drop D than in the standard tuning like Endeavor. Plus Endeavor, like you said, I'm doing like 1,000 words per song.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it really takes a lot out of me. Endeavor did a reunion show for a band back in, when was it, 2014 or 2015. And man, that was hard getting through that. It was just so like that took a lot of preparation, a lot of work to get through. But yeah, just the main difference in it, it's got less to do with the music, more to do with the tune, like the tune, the notes that I'm playing to, and I'm just able to do more with my voice at those lower tones. I can hold my voice longer, and then I can contrast it with some higher crescendo type of stuff, and then also I can. It's just easier to do the fast stuff too, because I'm singing more from a natural point for my diaphragm than if I am the standard.
Yeah. Going back to Crazier Than a Shithouse Rat album, where did you come up with the name of that? Did you get it from somewhere? Because I remember, do you remember the Very catalogs that used to come up that you would, I would like thumb through those like constantly, and the first thing I ever heard was Crazier Than a Shithouse Rat, and I remember reading it in Very and being like, holy shit, I gotta buy this like CD. And I always wanted to ask you where you came up with that title for the album.
Yeah, I think that's as I remember, that was a Kevin Tunney thing. So Kevin was our guitar player, and he it was just one of those like sayings that he would say every now and then or something, and it just like it got brought up at a practice or something once, and we just like yeah, man, we like let's just do it. Yeah. So the title at all. It's just we just kind of like to. In my mind, I think it just kind of captured the because we were really at that time we were playing whenever we could, practicing whenever we could. Like silk screening our own shirts, till 2 in the morning, like doing whatever we needed to do. Our energy was just so up in it. And then we had a lot of you know a lot of other things going on here too, like the politics. We had falling out with one of our guitar players, this dude Aaron, who was one of the early guys in Endeavor. Got really, like, most of us were vegan and straight edge, but he was like super vegan, super straight edge. He was like vegan Reich,
Yeah.
shirts and stuff. And he wound up, and he knew like the Birthright guys and Abnegation, all that. He wound up leaving and moving out to Pennsylvania and joined Abnegation.
Oh, no kidding.
And we wound up the falling out, not really so much with him, but with another guy in the band. And it was over politics. And so anyway, there was like tension and stuff like that going on here and there.
Yeah.
And then just like stupid, squabble stuff and all that, and so like just like the energy of the thing at the time just kind of made that title work for us. So
now, do you have the fever of still playing right now? I mean, do you have the itch of wanting to play shows? I know COVID is not a thing right now, but inside in your emotions, do you have that fever that you want to go back out and maybe not even go and play a show, but maybe just get in the studio and make some new music?
Writing, yes. And in fact, I've talked to some friends, pretty informally, from some, I don't want to name names because I don't want to start any rumors and have any undue pressure be put on these guys. But some of the bands that I had mentioned before, bands we've been friends with and toured with and stuff, some members and stuff, and I have talked about doing a couple of different projects. Nothing's got up off the ground or anything like that, more than just expressing some interest in maybe doing something. But yeah, I mean, with COVID, yeah, just definitely just a need to release some of the tension and also to speak to the times that we're in, aside from COVID, the political times that we're in and
yeah.
the times that are out there and stuff now, providing some sort of outlet. And I think there'd probably be a strong interest in some of it, but at the same time, a lot of things, like I think you think about bands like Throwdown, which like started out as a joke, and they wound up becoming this great, huge touring hardcore band.
Yeah.
I don't want that in my life. I don't want, I don't want to get involved with something where there's a lot of interest and then there's all of a sudden a lot of pressure to like want to go out and tour and things like that. I just don't want to do that anymore. But one-offs and things like that, sure, still got plenty in me.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if Endeavor started now, this would be the perfect platform for them because of all the shit that's been going on the past 5 years. Of it's been crazy. They would probably flourish with all kinds of topics that have been running rampant through this country and all over the world, actually, not just this country.
Yeah, there definitely would be, and I'm glad to see that there are a lot of bands, both in and outside of hardcore, that are doing that. It's a very different time from 15, 20 years ago. Just in terms of the politics and what was considered to be acceptable to be talking about in your music. It's interesting. I saw in one of your posts you gave a plug on Kill Traders. And that song, was really about the cultural component of what am I trying to say here? Just that there was just the concept of love it or leave it. That certain topics are not to be discussed, not to be challenged. They're considered to be either un-American or anti-American or even traitorous. you know, and how that has a way of limiting debate and limiting the opportunity for change. Now that's been cracked wide open. I mean, there's, you know, and that's true on the left and the right, which is a very interesting dynamic that we have here right now. So, and then of course with the advent of YouTube and social media, things like this, not to mention home recording and how easy it is to make music at home now,
Mm.
to get the word out to millions of people without having to spend a dime. It's a pretty extraordinary time that we're living in, you know. So, you know, fortunately, there are a lot of other voices out there that are saying good things and getting people to think. And I think what we need to do though now is to get people to start talking to each other, because that's a problem. You know, like history books are filled with examples of dynasties and societies that have risen and fallen,
Yeah.
and crumbled from within, and we're not immune to that. I mean, you know, no one can think it can happen here, but it can, and that could be devastating because you know, we've been very um, sheltered from a lot of the angst and turmoil that you see in the third world,
Mm.
so-called third world. And now some of those things are showing up right here in our own society, and it really needs to be taken seriously. And I think the key to helping deal with that is for people to find a way to talk
Yeah.
in a way that's productive, in a way that doesn't pit them against each other just because of their political views.
I agree totally. 100%. I agree with all that. I don't want to take up too much of your time. Usually at the end, I usually do a little rapid fire. So I'll shoot you a little rapid fire things. Question number one, favorite New England punk hardcore band of all time for you in New England? That means like Connecticut, Mass, New Hampshire, Maine, Vermont.
Oh man, favorite ever? Oh man, that is hard. Oh man, favorite ever? I don't know if I can go favorite ever, man. I mean, I got
Or give me two or three of your all time favorite New England bands.
Hope Conspiracy, for sure. Converge. Um, who else? I gotta say Snapshot, of course. Um, God, I don't know. I mean, there's so many. Yeah, I'll go with those three as a good, solid. Yeah.
You know, it's funny. I saw on like a hardcore Instagram page. I saw a picture of Jet jumping off a balcony from Sam Blackchurch, and he was so far up. And I miss Sam Blackchurch so much. That Jet was like one of the greatest frontmen I've ever seen. I didn't know if you were a Sam Blackchurch fan, but I was back in the day. I was a huge Slapshot fan back then too. But I didn't know if you were a Sam Blackchurch fan.
I thought they were great. They weren't on my regular rotation, but I thought they were awesome. Yeah.
My second question: what was the first punk hardcore show you attended?
It was Vision.
Oh, Vision, nice.
Vision, New Jersey, late 1989.
All-time favorite punk hardcore show you played? You can give me two or three because you were in a bunch of bands
Oh man.
that you played that you were like, this was the show. You know what I mean? You it meant something to you.
At the time, I will actually say, and you actually posted a clip of this, but that Jersey Fest show at that time was, I remember, was really special. I would say, oh man, honestly, man, some of the most favorite things for me were in just the smallest little places. Endeavor playing Stevie's for the first time was big, and in fact, we actually there's another release too. There's a comp called Ourselves,
Oh yes, yes.
which we have a Endeavor live at Stevie's recording on that. Yeah, that was really special. Um, and maybe Endeavor in Rome. Yeah.
It's funny you said the ourselves comp because I was talking to Nathan from Casket Lottery in Coalesce, and I went to when they recorded Coalesce recorded for that comp. I was at that show in Worcester, Mass, when they recorded that compilation,
Oh,
which was,
oh,
I mean, Nathan wasn't in that band at the time because I think it was like 1996 that had happened. But it's just weird that I love that compilation. I mean, Coercion, Converge is on there. I mean, that comp is really, if anybody hasn't heard it, I mean, go pick it up if you can find it.
if you can find it, yeah, I'm guessing you can get it on YouTube or something somewhere, or someone's got some link somewhere for it. I'm lucky enough; I still have my CD.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had one and I sold it, of course. I sold everything when I moved. I sold everything. I think I have maybe 60 CDs left, but I sold all my vinyl. I sold like half my CDs. I don't know what I was thinking, because now I'm kicking myself in the ass for doing it. But
Right.
I think a lot of people did that. Out of I don't know.
Too heavy to carry, man.
Yeah, exactly. All right, my next question is all-time favorite punk hardcore show you attended, not that you played, but that you sat and watched and thought that was like the greatest hardcore show you've seen.
I would say I believe it was Essex County College. This would have been maybe 95. And it was basically the best. It was like Four Walls Falling, Outspoken, Resurrection, Mouthpiece. Um, I don't remember if Integrity played or they were supposed to play, but they didn't at any point. Um, it was an amazing time to be there. A very proud moment for New Jersey too, because it was just like this. I remember driving there and just, excited to see every band, and bought a lot of T-shirts, records, and stuff that day.
Yeah.
Everyone I knew was there. It was packed, and it was great. Yeah.
What
Yeah.
year was that?
I want to say 95, might even been 94. Yeah.
My next question: what was the last movie you watched? I'm a huge movie guy, so I always have to ask.
Oh, like a new movie?
Just whatever the last movie you watched. It could be I have kids, so sometimes my last movie is something like Dora the Explorer or.
The last movie I watched was Chef with Jon Favreau.
Oh, I've seen that. Yes.
Yes. And I'd seen it before, but I watched it again just because I felt like it. Yeah, I've gotten more into cooking and preparing meals and stuff, and I just like trying to I try to like to learn how to make certain things taste really good.
Yeah.
Kids and that I just think it's a great food movie.
Yeah, it is a good movie.
Then,
I was on a Chopped tear last night. I was watching Chopped for like 2 hours last night. All right, my next question: favorite all-time horror movie?
Nightmare on Elm Street, the original. Yeah.
And my last question: what if you've been listening to hip hop? What have you been listening to for hip hop lately?
You know what and I haven't even gotten through it yet, but the last Ghostface Killer, I just put it on my Apple Music and started listening to it and got through the first few tracks. And I actually did that at a statement. I didn't even know that it would come out, and just jumped on it, and yeah, so far so good.
Yeah, I always love Ghostface. Anything Wu-Tang really puts out is a great thing. I've recorded a bunch of stuff too, as well as I've recorded like a bunch of hardcore and heavy bands. I've also recorded a ton of hip hop stuff, and I always post stuff. I saw Ghostface a couple of years ago, and I also saw Master Killer up in like a small bar up in Manchester, New Hampshire, there was probably only 55 people there, 60 tops, and it was an amazing show. So I always have my hand in the hip hop. Tribe Called Quest is like my all-time favorite band of all time. Well, hip hop band, and I just want to say rest in peace to MF Doom. That kind of hit me hard that the day before 2021 hit. That's kind of crushing. I feel like those guys hit me harder when I heard Sean Price and Prodigy from Mobb Deep and Fife from Tribe Called Quest and MF Doom. Those hit me a lot harder than Tupac and Biggie. I know a lot of people always say Tupac and Biggie, but those four guys had way more of an impact on my musical listening to for hip hop. So that was kind of crushing to hear, all those guys that were legendary in my eyes, like, pass away.
Mm. Yeah, it's a sad thing, man, and it's one thing to. I guess the thing too is the difference between someone dies of natural causes, or if somebody dies from a pandemic, or if somebody dies from violence. It's just your way of thinking to it. But if someone's got an influence on you, if they've been an inspiration to you, it doesn't matter how they go, right? I mean,
Yeah.
on,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mike, I want to thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it, especially the new year had hit, and just taking time out to talk to me. I think it's a positive thing. Me talking to all these great musicians and artists that I've been talking to. You're a big legend in my eyes, because Endeavor was such a huge part of when I was a young kid growing up. I mean, I just turned 49 a couple days ago, but still, Endeavor and Burnt by the Sun, they were just huge bands. I was a big Nora fan too. I still kick myself in the ass for not going to the New Bedford Fest in Massachusetts where Nora played, and that was like I can't even believe I missed that fest, because the who's who of bands that played that fest was incredible. Do you remember that fest at all?
I do. Yeah. Yep.
And so I just want to thank you so much, and I want you to have a great new year and stay safe, and thank you once again.
My pleasure, man. Thank you, and keep up the good work, man. Watching.
All right, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Be well. Take care, man.
Thank you.